Good morning and welcome to the first concurrent session of the day, Transitioning Co-Requisite Math Course to an Online Environment. Our presenters today are Amy Young and Brandon Ford from Navarro College. Amy Young has a bachelor's in mathematics and psychology with a master's in educational technology. She has been teaching at Navarro College since 2003 and teaches developmental mathematics, and psychology. During her time at Navarro College, she has been the director of orientation and interim dean of science, kinesiology, and PASS. Brandon Ford has a bachelor's in mathematics with a master's in business. He is an associate professor with mathematics at the Navarro College Corsicana campus, where he has been serving since 2012. During his tenure at Navarro, Brandon has served in the role of Department Chair of Developmental Studies, as well as Dean of Science, Kinesiology, and PASS. While at Navarro, Brandon has been highly involved in the implementation of co-requisite courses, instructional technology, and training. If you have any questions for the presenters during our session today, please feel free to enter those into the Zoom room box Q&A session at the bottom of your screen, and we will address them at the end of the talk. On that note, I will hand it over to our presenters.
Good morning, everybody. I hope that you are having an absolutely phenomenal Friday, this last day of sessions. Looking forward to doing this presentation today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see our PowerPoint. Give me just a second to do that. Okay. So today we wanted to talk about transitioning co-requisite mathematics to an online environment. At Navarro College, just as I'm sure is the case everywhere in the country, COVID really threw you for a loop. I know it did us. And courses that we never thought that we would be transitioning to online, we had to transition and often had to do so at a very, very quick moment's notice. I know we actually left to present at the summit back in 2020. We flew out of Dallas into Charleston, and the world shut down on us. So, and then by the time we got back, we had to have everything moved to an online environment. So what we did here at Navarro, we have set up all co-requisites into a 3-3-hour setup. So a student would go to a 3-hour developmental course, followed by a 3-hour credit course. We did that for a very specific reason. We wanted to make sure that that developmental course met first. We did that primarily because we wanted to ensure that the student received just-in-time remediation prior to the credit level course. That would allow the student, say, for example, if they were attempting to learn the quadratic formula or solving for intercepts or whatever, then they could learn factoring right before that so that they kind of have that understanding of what they're doing. We have played with some alternate setups for Math 1332 and Math 1342. That's our contemporary math and statistics. Since they don't have quite as much preliminary knowledge that they really need, we have discussed doing a kind of a lab-based co-requisite for those two, where they come to a student lab to get their homework done with support. That's our face-to-face setup at the moment at Navarro. We do a co-mingle structure with 10 credit level students and 20 developmental students. So that's the ALP kind of prescribed model for these co-requisite courses, is that the credit level students kind of bring those developmental students up, right? It gives them something to shoot for. We do try to co-teach all of these sections. So one instructor will take the developmental section while a different instructor takes the credit level section. That's due to some staffing concerns that we've had. We are a small rural school, and because of that, we don't have the same type of access to qualified math professors that some of our big, like our northern campuses have access to. We do varied course offerings. So we do like 4 days per week. That allows the developmental course to meet, say, for example, Monday and Wednesday, where the credit level course meets Tuesday, Thursday. That way the students have access to a math course 4 days in a row. That's kind of one of those learning by immersion that if they are always doing it 4 days in a row, that they will have better success. And we have implemented from our setup that if a student is dropped from one course, be that for attendance or inactivity or whatever, then they have to be dropped from both courses. What that does for us is it allows us to make sure that the developmental course has the same bite as the credit level course. Okay. Now, for our online course setup, so that was our face-to-face course setup. Our online course setup, we, due to enrollment dropping at Navarro College, Texas has seen a lower enrollment in almost all of its community college throughout the state. Due to that low enrollment, we do offer college algebra semesterly. Whereas business math, we only offer about twice a year, contemporary once a year, and statistics once a year. College algebra is required for many of our kinesiology degrees, and we are a housing-based campus where students are highly kinesiology majors, a lot of sports students, things like that. So we do offer college algebra more often than the rest. Statistics doesn't transfer quite as well, so we offer even fewer of those. Our contemporary math are primarily offered for John Deere Ag Tech. We've got a pretty robust program there. We still do, even in the online setup, a 3 credit hour system, but as opposed to commingling, we actually cohort 40 students into both of these courses. It just simplifies things, but we do maintain that two instructor setup for all online courses. I'll turn this over to Amy now.
Hi guys, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I am on a bus coming back from Arkansas with some students that I got to chaperone this week, but we were going to talk about two varieties of offering online classes. We at Navarro College actually do the asynchronous. A lot of that has to come down to access to internet, a good internet connection. But the benefits obviously are it's extremely flexible because it is a self-paced course and more accessible for most students, and students technically have more time with the material. Of course, there are some challenges, procrastination being one of the biggest challenges that I struggle with my students. Having students learn independently and taking responsibility for their education is a struggle as well. Obviously, I would love to do some synchronized. This is where you actually schedule a time to meet online twice a week or once a week, and the students show up in a Zoom session or whatever platform you would like to use for those meetings. You're going to have a little bit better engagement. They're going to have more interaction with the instructor, probably feel a little bit more comfortable about reaching out to you when they do have issues. Again, some cons is it is a set schedule, and as we know, a lot of these students have a difficulty meeting set schedules. That's why they're on an online class. Another big one is it does need a fairly decent internet connection. It's becoming less and less of a problem. I remember when I first started teaching online, I had a young man who was always on time with his homework. And one time I asked him he was a couple of days behind, and I emailed him and said, "What's going on?" And he goes, "Well, I haven't made it to McDonald's." And I was like, "Why do you need to go to McDonald's to get your homework done?" He's like, "Oh, I need to get the internet connection. I don't have one at my house." And so that's becoming less and less of an issue. But like Brandon said, we are in a rural community, so that does actually still happen today, where we have students who actually have to go someplace and can't do their homework at home. Go ahead if you want to go to the next slide.
As a matter
please.
of fact, I live kind of out in the country, and I made real sure that I drove it to Navarro College to do this presentation because I had no idea if my internet would hold up to the demand of Zoom. So yeah, but living in a rural area comes with benefits, but definitely it's difficulties, it's challenges as well.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about what the job of the developmental instructor is in this class. And I will say that even as I go through these, I need you to understand we do have the two instructors, and we work very well together. Most of the time, most of these things we kind of delve out before we even start the class, and we're always emailing and calling and talking to each other, making sure that we are on the same page with all of these ideas. So the first one is obviously we're supposed to support the credit level instructor with just-in-time remediation, having those assignments coming before the credit level assignment so that they are ready to take on those college algebra or statistics topics. Study skills, best practices, test anxiety, encourage a lot of communication. One of the things that, and this is kind of true for any developmental class or any class online anyway, is we need to be cognizant of what kind of emails we send out, because we tend to only send emails when the students aren't doing their work. And sometimes we need to send emails when students are doing their work and telling them what a great job they're doing. I get so many responses when I send out an email and just say, "Hey, I just noticed that you've gotten caught up. You're doing awesome. I'm so proud." And they're really thankful for you to not only notice that they're missing homework, but actually getting that homework completed as well.
So I've got a student this semester, just to kind of highlight what Professor Young was just saying. Last semester, the student didn't pass. We had to drop him. He stopped coming to class, really wasn't engaged in the course, things like that. This semester, he showed up to the class and really started becoming slightly engaged. I just shot an email to the coach and I said, "Hey, I just wanted to praise this student for a moment. You know, he is showing up to class, he's answering all of my questions, he's engaged." And ever since I did that, there's just been a change in that student, like just really coming to see me more, just really taking more impact into the course. Professor Young, are you still there?
Yes, sir, I'm still here.
I lost you on video. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm bouncing around a lot, so I figured it might be better to turn that off. Obviously, again, just kind of talking about the developmental instructor's job, reviewing material. And so a lot of times, and this is true for my face-to-face classes especially, my credit level instructors do not require students to do the reviews for the tests. Now they may offer them extra credit, but it's not a requirement. I make reviews part of their grade for my class. So I require that they do that because we know students don't do optional. So a lot of times we can take things that your credit level instructor is doing as an option, like reviews, and adding them into your class as a requirement. And again, it just makes that student more responsible for those things. We have to do core projects. So I like to have my students turn in their core project before they turn it into the credit level instructor, so I can review it and look at their math and look at their logic and make sure that it is correct and give them some advice if they are incorrect about something. We've done supplemental instruction sessions 1 to 2 nights per week, about an hour. We do a set schedule, so based on what they're learning that week, that's what we talk about during that session. And we record them and then post them to our learning management system. And these are both wonderful and horrible all at the same time. They're really great when students show up because you get some really good interactions with them. But a lot of times the students didn't show up. And so that could really be frustrating on the instructor's part, because they are, again, optional, because we're doing the asynchronized. So we can't require them to be at these SI sessions. We can just offer that opportunity for them. We did get a lot of comments afterwards that said that they really appreciated that we had recorded them and posted them into the system so that they could go back and watch them at a later time. So that was a nice little benefit of us being able to record those. And we did use Zoom for those sessions.
So credit instructors, I want to take this opportunity to talk about, what's the job of the credit instructor? We both, myself and Professor Young, have taught for both the credit and the developmental side. So we kind of come from a unique perspective here. And really, when we started the co-requisites, the idea was that really the credit instructor didn't change anything. We didn't want the credit instructor to alter their course in any way. We wanted to make sure that it was a strong credit course, just the same as every other student. Regardless of population, we wanted to ensure that, that all students basically took the same course. But as we started doing all of this online, we started realizing, we have to acknowledge the fact that these students are different. And that doesn't mean change the way or change the topics of the course, change the way it's graded, anything like that. But it did require kind of a mentality change on the side of the credit instructor. And that is, just communicate with your developmental faculty. I know whenever I was teaching courses, because we have actually transitioned developmental to co-requisite as well. If a student tests too low to be at Navarro College, we enroll them in an AEL course with a developmental course, and the AEL becomes the support. And I was so used to being siloed within developmental studies that I would just teach, and it would just completely slip my mind to communicate with the AEL instructor. But it's the same thing with your credit. Is if you're teaching your college algebra or your statistics, whichever course that you're teaching, you really need to communicate with that developmental faculty. Once a week is really imperative, if not more. If your instructors can meet face-to-face, that's even better, because you can, I walk down and I sit in my co-requisite instructor's office and we'll sit and talk, or I'll just walk down the hall and stick my head in and say, hey, what are you teaching today? Who are you noticing problems with? Is this student showing up to class? And that lets us both, because if I, as a developmental instructor, for example, send an email to a student, it has less weight in many cases than if I send an email and then the credit instructor sends an email saying, hey, I've talked to your developmental instructor and they're indicating you're not coming to class. What's going on? Can you help? You need to be aware that if you get dropped from that class, I don't have a choice. You will be dropped from mine. And that usually gets the student in gear attending both courses. Now, these are internet courses, so attendance is working on homework, but we do occasionally see that students spend more time, put all of their eggs in one basket, if it were, into the credit and ignore the developmental. So that kind of helps alleviate that. Give the developmental instructor access to your gradebook. I mediated a meeting yesterday between a developmental instructor and their pair, where the developmental instructor really didn't want to give access out. And I questioned them. I said, why not? What does it hurt? Give access to your gradebook. You need to trust your partner. You need to trust your pair, and you need to be able to let them see what's happening. The developmental instructor shouldn't change your grades, but they can access that student achievement portion. Remember, Hawks, if you're using Hawks, has a phenomenal reporting tool. So I will occasionally jump in, whether I'm teaching the developmental or the credit, and I'll run a report just to see how students are doing. If I'm teaching the quadratic formula and finding intercepts, for example, in college algebra, I can jump into the developmental section. I can see how they're doing on factoring, and that guides the videos that I'm going to be making for my students. If they don't understand the factoring, I'm going to lean more heavily toward the quadratic formula and less away from the factoring. Knowledge is power, guys. There's a great quote that says a rising tide raises all ships. If we can, as credit level faculty, support our developmental faculty and really get the students engaged there, they're going to learn. They're going to get that foundation that they need to be successful in the credit level class, and that's important. You need to know your audience, but not change your curriculum or expectations. And I think that's the hard part. That's where Navarro College has made sure that we have 2 different instructors for the courses. And the reasoning behind that is it's really easy if I'm the credit level instructor to really get so comfortable with my students that I might let that slip completely unintentionally. But having that dual instructor teaching modality is beneficial. Okay, do change your approach though. Like we said, send out those really encouraging emails. Know that these students are, at least in our case, low SES, things like that. Okay. So this is not, whenever you're teaching your developmental sections, this is not just introductory intermediate algebra. When we started doing online co-requisites, we kind of took our intermediate algebra course and we tried to make these co-requisites fit into that box, and it didn't work. We really need to make sure that that we when we're doing our just-in-time remediation, that we are seeing where the students are and really basing on that. Hawks does great where you can turn the quizzes into diagnostics, where the student can take a diagnostic test and just work on what they need. My apologies, guys. Communication between the instructor. Like I said, once a week at minimum, but every day I'm sticking my head into my paired instructors course and just finding out kind of how is the course doing. Make sure that your schedule is flexible. I know for y'all, or at least for us, I'm assuming it's for everybody else, COVID's still that thing. I get probably 3 or 4 emails a week saying this student has been out for COVID. And we have to maintain that flexible schedule. So now online, that's not quite as difficult, but you will get many emails asking for extensions, asking for, patience as a student works through COVID. We talked about make sure that the developmental course, make sure that the students understand that it is a mandatory support course. Students don't do optional, which is why we set it up the way we did. Students will have 2 instructors for every single course that they're taking from a co-requisite standpoint. And that's been really nice for my students. I've noticed that students will pick a favorite instructor. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's not me. And I do my best not to be offended by that. My paired instructor yesterday stuck his head in and said, oh, this student that we've been working with, she's not contacting me anymore. I guess she really is kind of mad at me and she doesn't like me anymore. And I said, look, students are going to pick their favorite instructor. It has nothing to do with whether they like you or not. It's just who do they connect with. We all have different personality types, and that's a good thing. It really is a good thing, because what it does is allows the student to connect with an instructor that really fits their learning style. That student comes to me for all of their questions, but I have many other students in the class that they don't come to me for questions. They go to the other instructor. So back and forth, it'll give and take. And because of that, it really is a good thing. It helps the students to learn. Okay. So there's my little COVID graphic there, right? To indicate that it's still around. So we use the Hawks integrated review for just about all of our courses. College algebra, we use the integrated review for that. Business math. Now, business math within the Hawk system, they don't have the integrated review. So we actually use the intermediate algebra as a developmental portion for this course. And it works very, very well to do that. All of those major topics are covered within the chapters there. We do teach statistics and contemporary math, which is also integrated review. One of my favorite items that we can do is pull our SLOs through the web test objective report. And if anybody ever has any questions on how to do this, I will be happy to help you with it. We started using that a few years ago in the developmental sequence, and we went from probably having a 30 to 40% student learning outcome rate of submission to over 90%, because I go in personally, I run it on demand. I don't have to rely on anybody else. I can run it when I want to. I can compile it when I want to. It's been phenomenal. It really works well also because now Navarro College has implemented for not only the developmental courses, but also the credit level courses. Now, those we've got some ambiguous student learning outcomes that we have to report, and they don't always work with the developmental side. I could even pull some of the student learning outcomes even from the credit side, and I can see how they're doing on a credit level section, and I can kind of link that to the developmental sequence because again, they're taking this course, we're trying to assess, do they know that knowledge? And so I can pull from multiple locations. We also use additional materials. I pull up Desmos just about all the time whenever I'm making my videos. I can Kahoot. Kahoot has a homework system now that we can use. We use many different materials. I think that we're actually going to talk about in our next slide.
Yep. So Brandon kind of cut me off there, but yeah.
Only a little bit.
Yeah, we do use quite a few different technologies, both in the online classroom as well as in the face-to-face classroom. These are just a few of the ones that we really like. We don't use Educreation as much as we used to. It is a platform to make videos that your students can quickly get access to. It's really good for student questions. Like if a student sends you a question, you could easily create a video through Educreation and send them the link to that. We don't use that anymore because on Canvas we have Studio, and Studio basically does the same thing for us. So but it is a good website. If you haven't seen it, it is free. All of these websites are actually free. So that's another really good point. I know a lot of people already know Kahoot. I want you to make sure you know that they do have a homework option now. It's awesome. I love it. You can have it be timed. You can have it be free. Just to have them answer the questions. It's really a great. Flipgrid is like an online discussion board that they do by recording themselves. So that one of our instructors really loves using the Flipgrid. It integrates into Canvas as well if you're using Canvas. And then just a couple other ones. If you haven't explored Teacher Desmos, that one is really awesome as well. It has a lot of activities pre-made activities you can do, and you can make your own activities. And then the students access that through Student Desmos. Really great piece of software if you haven't. And the last one, I don't know if you guys struggle as much with photo math as I do, and we do in our online classes and just in general. Eddie is a platform where you can put a background on problems that makes it where they cannot use photo math to take a picture of the problem. I know we have suggested to Hawk several times of finding a way to put a background on some of the problems in the software so that students can't use the photo math to quickly do their homework. So those are just a few. I'm sure there are tons more.
Right. I mean, we could give an entire presentation just on all these technologies. But yeah, there are quite a few resources, and don't be afraid to utilize them.
Okay, so I did see in the Q&A that somebody asked for a course schedule, and I Didn't say anything about it at the time because I knew we were coming up to it. So this is our course schedule for our online class, specifically because it is cohorted. We break it up a little bit differently. So we have weeks 1 through 3, typically all developmental material, kind of front loading the course. So especially for college algebra and business math, because those courses have so much pre-knowledge that they really need to get into where we start them, which is in graphing and finding vertexes and things of that nature. So the first 3 weeks, nothing but developmental. Then weeks 4 through 14 are a mixture of the developmental and the credit material. And then week 15 and 16 is mostly credit. Occasionally you'll see a developmental topic pop up in there, but most of the time it's all their credit material. Again, we have a strong SI presence with the developmental, but we also cover credit concepts in that as well. And then creating additional videos as needed. All of our sections in all of our courses have videos made for them, most of them made by us, in addition to links out to like Hawks TV and My Favorite Khan Academy and things of that nature.
Right.
But we do have those options for the students. Brandon has a couple of different course schedules that he's going to pop up here for you guys to see. The first one is his, and he likes to separate out the developmental and the credit stuff. So I believe all of the yellow is developmental material, whereas all the blue is credit material. I personally don't like to do that because I don't like them to know what's developmental and what's credit, because I want them just to know they have homework due. So the bottom one is actually a copy of my course schedule for my online class, and I believe that's this semester. So you can see like another thing I want to point out is notice that we don't ever have everything due on one day. We don't have like due dates on Sunday. We spread it out throughout the week. We typically have Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday are our due dates. We do that on purpose, trying to kind of stop that procrastination that can happen when you have everything due on like a Sunday or a Monday, especially with the amount of material that they're going to be covering.
Oh, I think we're losing. Are we losing you?
I hope not.
So let me say this while we're here. This right here is going to take a lot of communication time with you and your paired instructor, particularly a paired instructor that is not taught these co-requisites online. Because like I said, we really want the credit instructor not to alter their teaching style, not to alter what they're doing. But when you look at this, it's kind of a shock when you walk up to your credit instructor and you say, hey, I'm going to need you not to teach for a couple of weeks, like 3 weeks, don't do anything, like do not put any of your homework up. And then they get really nervous that they're going to be able to cover all of their course content, right? Because I mean, they're not starting to teach until week 3. This takes a lot of communication. And I would encourage you to do that, because it's a different animal. It's a completely different thought structure. Ms. Young, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about here?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So guys, now designing your LMS, because this is always an interesting task, to say the least. So when you are designing your LMS, so I've got a picture here of our front page. We use Canvas, but this is our front page. And what we do is we put everything in one course shell. So you'll notice right here under read the syllabus both courses, you've got the 1314 and the 0314 syllabus all together in one. These are the developmental sections, section 4R1 and 2, and then over here 3.1. These are, so you've got your credit information in here as well. So communication here with your students, I know I sound like a broken record. Communicate, communicate, communicate. I truly believe that communication is the key to success in these courses. Students will falsely assume that this is one course. If you have it integrated really well, they're going to think that it's one course. You have to communicate with them that it's not. I've had a student this semester that's just like, this is too much. I can't believe I've got this much homework. And I have to constantly remind them that these are 2 courses. You're taking 2 3-hour courses. You're not taking 1 course. Yes, if this were 1 course, this would be incredibly a lot of homework, but it's not. It's 2 3-hour courses. And sometimes even your advising team needs to understand that, because when they put them in these courses, they might need to limit how many other courses they're put into. So communicate, communicate, communicate. Make the access material as simple as possible. My students, I've got some students that won't even go into the course, that they go into their little to-do list over here on the calendar, and that's all they do. They jump directly into the homework. And I have to remind them, hey, we've got you a course shell built in Canvas. We have videos, we have all of these things that that will make the course easier for you. So even as simple as this is, where we break it up by week and we tell them exactly what to do. Look, we've even got the dates labeled here. Even as simple as this, we have students that struggle. So you can imagine how if you've got videos located in one location and rely on them reading, how difficult that would be. We try to link our 2 LMS courses into one Hawks. I'm sorry, you can link 2 of your LMS courses to the same Hawks course, and we can help you with that with the deep linking. Make sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to give y'all a 10-minute time warning, just to make sure we have enough time for all these wonderful questions coming in.
Oh, perfect. Yes. Sorry, we have a tendency to talk a lot.
This has been so informative. Please go ahead.
I hope so. I hope so. Really, more than anything, engagement is your key. Communicate with your students, communicate with your faculty. Hawks has a great tool. If you're using Hawks, they've got a great remind tool. I don't notice it in any of the other softwares that we have looked into, but it automatically sends emails to students. Do bi-weekly check-ins. I'm running a course right now, and I don't wait for the course evaluation at the end of the semester. I send a message out about once every 2 weeks. Hey, how are you doing? Like, I know I've got your grade book, like I can see quantitatively how you're doing, but how are you doing? Like, do you have any suggestions? Do you want to see more videos? Do you want to see less videos? What do you need from me? And I do that about every couple of weeks. If you do use that remind tool, remember, it's automatic and the students don't know that it's automatic. So go in there, alter it, make sure it's nice and friendly. Do your virtual office hours through Zoom. I have had a lot of luck with this lately. We're using iPads and it works very, very well. Students will want videos over those difficult topics. So make sure that you have the technology ready to do that. Studio and Canvas, Screencast-O-Matic is free. I use that almost exclusively. I use an iPad, but an Elmo and a webcam would work just as well for you. What I've got here is I have some videos. What I've done is I've taken a screen cap of our studio platform where we've made these videos. We can review the students that have watched it. The student watched it, a lot of it. And I've highlighted to protect the innocent down here, so you can't see all of my student names or whatever, but all the student has to do is go in, and then you can have these insights to review whether they're watching you or not. Ms. Young?
Hi, hopefully it's back to being normal again. So we have some lessons learned. You know, everything has lessons learned. I can tell you that the very first time we did Co-Requisite online, we did college algebra, and they were just convinced that commingled was the way to go for the online. And I'm going to be completely honest, I was not happy about it or thrilled. And it was very difficult to manage. Students would bypass the developmental material, go directly to the college algebra material. They would struggle so much with that college algebra material because they didn't really have the skill sets. Students were talking to each other. They're like, I don't understand why I have to do this extra work. And it was just, it did not create a very good situation. In fact, our pass rates for that particular semester, the first time we did this co-rec online, was atrocious. So then we presented our argument after that, and they allowed us to do cohorts. And the pass rate has been much better with the cohorts than they ever were with the commingled. So if you haven't done an internet class correct like this, I would highly suggest going for that cohort where every student is a developmental student. It makes it a lot easier to manage on both the credit level and the developmental side. Grading has been a little bit of a challenge because we did at first use one product for everything. So the students would use the college algebra plus integrated review for both their college algebra and their developmental portion. This created a lot of confusion about their grades because basically their grade would be 200 points.
I think we're losing you.
And we had one column for their college algebra grade and one column for their developmental grade. And they would only look at the average. So, they would have a 9. So we would have a 40 in the failing. So you can divide this out and linking specific assignments to specific courses, and then linking the courses together inside of your LMS. If you have any struggles with how to do that, please feel free to contact myself or Brandon, and we can help you work through the intricacies of how to get all of the assignments where they need to be.
Absolutely. I think we've lost Miss Young. She's kind of becoming robot-y. I'll take over this. I'll take over this slide. Maybe she'll get signal back very soon. Commingled online is incredibly difficult to manage. Students get overwhelmed. Things such as that. This is what we have created. So when we build through Hawks, we have to nest in all of these different the 2 different courses. So this was the NCBM and the statistics credit, but this is actually a picture that I put into my announcement that says, look, when you go in, your NCBM grade is this, 86.32. When you go in, you'll see statistics credit, this is the other grade. So it makes it very obvious to them what is and is not their current grade. Multiple announcements per week can be confusing. So what we try to do is we try to send one per week. One instructor sends it once per week. How am I doing on time, Victoria? We
are right at our time to move
Perfect.
into Q&A. Yes.
I'm so sorry we went over. Let
That's
me
okay.
end my talk with just one last thing. And that is, this is my motto. I believe it's one of the forgotten beatitudes of Jesus Christ, and that is, blessed are the flexible, for they'll not be bent out of shape. Be sure to be flexible when you're teaching these. I mean, all of these lessons learned that we've done all boils down to that one thing: be flexible.
I love that. What a great way to end. And you all have received quite a few questions. I've tried to mark those that we have covered, but I do want to make sure that everyone does get their questions answered. So we'll go ahead and start with this first one from anonymous attendee. Do you teach developmental co-recs in a 8-week format?
We do not. So the state, it's just too much to fit into an 8-week course. I mean, by the time you try to fit 2 full-on courses, 2-3 hours in an 8-week, we just don't think that we'll be successful. So the minimum we teach it at is a 12-week. We teach 12-week over the summer as a co-rec. The state of Texas also, and I don't know if anybody else falls into this, the state has said that we could try to offer the developmental as either a 4-week followed by a 12-week credit, or an 8-week followed by an 8-week credit. But they've also told us that if a student enrolls in that developmental, refuses to show up, there's nothing saying that they can't go on into college algebra without any kind of support. So we kind of felt like that was setting students up for failure, and we opted not to do that and to go more with a side-by-side model for the courses.
That makes sense. Our next question: in contemporary math, Is it considered developmental math? Or I'm sorry, I think I read that wrong. Is contemporary math considered developmental math? Is the question from Afshin.
Michelle,
No,
you okay with that?
our Math 1332 is considered a credit level course, or the contemporary math. Now, the way that it works for a student who is taking that course, if they test lower than what we allow in our co-requisite classes, they take our introductory algebra, and once they complete that, they're allowed to go to contemporary math with no support onto it. However, if they test into the co-req and they go to the contemporary, they do have to take the co-requisite and the contemporary course together, but it is considered a credit level course. And a lot of our fine arts students are taking that, as well as our John Deere.
Okay, thank you. We have another anonymous question. Do you use the integrated review homework sections for co-requisite? I believe we covered. So
We do. We have made a few modifications to the learn screens. That's a great feature, by the way. So we've embedded some videos into the learn screen to kind of guide the students the way we want to go. We've requested some additional types of questions be added from Hawks, and they've been gracious enough to do that. So we have modified it to a point, but yes, we do tend to attempt to use that for the developmental sections.
Yeah, if you guys haven't done a session with them where they talk about the question builder, it is an awesome tool that you can use to build your own questions, and we've done that as well. So if you haven't done that, I would highly suggest talking to your reps about learning how to use that question builder feature.
absolutely, absolutely. We definitely want to help you all utilize that tool and maximize its benefits. We have another question. How is supplemental instruction handled for your asynchronous courses?
So yeah, so what we did was we met on Monday and Thursday evenings on Zoom from 6:30 to 7:30, I believe was the time frame we had. I actually split this with my credit level instructor. So she did the Mondays and I did the Thursdays. We picked those days because their homeworks are due on Tuesday and Friday. So we figured, they'd have a chance to ask questions prior to their homework being due. And we would record the sessions and then post them afterwards through the Zoom feature and things of that nature. The schedule basically for the supplemental instruction matched the schedule for what was due that following night. And we work really well together. So my credit level instructor didn't care if she was teaching developmental or if I was teaching the credit portion as far as what was covered that day. We just split it up by you do anything that's on Monday, I'll do anything that's on Thursday. And it worked out really well for a while. Like I said, the students really liked the fact that we recorded them and posted them at a later date.
Awesome. To piggyback off of a question asked earlier, do you use Hawks Learning quizzes and test questions only, or do you customize them? I know y'all mentioned question builder, but do y'all use any other questions from other sources?
Not really. We tend to so I will say this, in say your stats classes that doesn't have as much developmental support needed, we will put discussion board questions out there to try to get a deeper learning. I'm a big fan of trying to introduce the ethics into the stats course. One of my favorite quotes is by Mark Twain, and he says there are 3 types of falsehoods: lies, damn lies, and statistics. And so what I always try to do is I try to introduce to them, look, with great power comes great responsibility, and you need to be aware of the ethical guidelines. So actually pulling questions in from other sources, not really, but we do utilize the Canvas feature from a discussion board perspective and things like that.
Awesome. Do you use IDEA, I hope I'm saying that right, for questions that you make and then put in Canvas? What about for questions that are in your publisher's bank?
Amy, do you want to take that? You want me to?
Well, I don't, is this the Mathways
Adia,
product?
yeah, the Adia.
I don't really use that. One of our fellow instructors is the one that found it. At this point, I believe it only is used for questions that you create or that are created within the app itself. So we can't add that into any of the Hawks questions. Now you could, yes, you could screen capture that and place that into your LMS and use that in there as well. We have you could also do that to print the exam as well. We were trying to figure out if you could print it directly from there the other day. We didn't find that option, but you could screen capture those and print them out if you wanted to do like a paper version of that.
Correct. And then really that's a pretty good practice anyway, right? We could take a screen capture, put it in, and those are the 3 questions on the test, right? That the students can't. Now, the other part of that is it's going to protect against photo math. Unfortunately, it's not going to protect against Mathways where they type it in with their, lovely fingers. So you still want to use some sort of a proctoring system if that's a concern for you.
Right. Well, I think that this last question will be a good one to end it to. I'm sorry we didn't have time for the rest of our questions, but we have are there accessibility issues when putting a background on a quiz exam question? Just wondering if a screen reader would have issues reading the equation for the visually impaired.
That is an excellent question that we have not run into. I know Miss Young right now is working individually with a blind student. Ms. Young, do you have anything to add to that? I know I've not seen it as an issue.
Well, and I'm going to say this, I honestly don't know because we're not using any technology for our course. We have a Braille book and we're going through the Braille book and using that. So I'm not sure if it would have an issue. I would imagine if it is coded correctly, it wouldn't, but we'd have to contact the software developer to see how they've encoded the background.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing that and for everything, your expertise, your tips and tricks, and oh my goodness, everyone, they are even sharing their contact information. So we can't thank y'all enough, Amy and Brandon, and everyone are generous enough to share that contact information. So any questions that you have at this time, please make sure you reach out.
Please do. Please do. I think after our last time to present with you guys, we drove down to Coastal Bend College and talked to them. So we are really happy to reach out and talk to anybody. If anybody needs anything, happy to do it.
Thank you all so much. And thank you to all of our attendees who came and asked wonderful questions. This has been such an engaging session with Q&A. I did go ahead and put into the chat box our links to our next upcoming sessions, as well as a link to our virtual booth and conference website. If you have not gotten to yesterday or this morning, make sure you do swing by the virtual booth to say hello to our team at Hawks. If you stick around for a 5-minute demonstration, you'll be entered to win one of our prizes. We have quite a few that are really exciting. So we have a 1-year subscription to Disney Plus, 6-month subscription to Audible, or a $100 Amazon gift card. So you don't want to miss out on that. With that, again, thank you to our wonderful speakers, and we will see you all at the next session.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.